What's up, YouTube? I'm Guy, and you're about to watch a clip from the Watch Talk Live channel. Watch Talk Live is a channel that I created with my friend AB, and it's where we host all of our current and future live streams and podcast episodes. I'd really encourage you guys to go over to that channel, and I'll have a link down below, and definitely subscribe. Number one, it would really help us out, and we would appreciate it. And number two, there's a lot of new content being produced over there, and I think you guys would enjoy it. Now, in the most recent episode, we played a little game called Drawing a Blank, and I think it turned out to be our best episode yet. I wanted to share a small clip of what we did with that little game here on my channel, but again, you should definitely go over to the Watch Talk Live channel. You should subscribe and check out that entire video, as well as our previous episodes that we have filmed in the past. There is a ton of really cool stuff over there for you guys to see. And with that said, let me show you guys a little clip from that episode. I think you're gonna enjoy it.
I got inspired because I like to watch a lot of, I guess you could call it radio, but it's TV shows, sports related TV shows. And on those TV shows, they do a segment that I enjoy and I thought would make for a really good segment for our podcast and live stream. It's called Drawing a Blank. So I'm going to present a question with a blank in it, and then AB and I will both take turns answering that question. Of course, everyone that's watching live should also participate in the comments, tell us what they think. Okay. All right, so I've got a setup here with an easy first draw the blank question. And it is, number one, the perfect size watch collection is blank. Now, AB, you go ahead, fill in the blank. What is the perfect size watch collection? Give us some thoughts as to why you feel that way.
4 watches. I think the perfect size watch collection, realistically, anywhere from 4 to 6, but I think 4 watches. You need a dedicated dress watch, you need a sports watch, you need an everyday watch, and then you need a beater watch, preferably some kind of G-Shock.
All right, you flew through those so fast. It's 4, and they are what again?
Okay, you need a dedicated dress watch because I feel like that watch will be the most special watch in your collection. And then you need a sports watch, and then you need an everyday watch and a beater watch, preferably some kind of G-Shock.
All right, I got you. So if you were going to nail down, without getting too in-depth, specifics, obviously the G-Shock already said. What's your perfect dress watch? What's your perfect sports watch? And what's your perfect everyday watch? Just real briefly, give us a couple of examples.
Easy. I'll use mostly from my collection. G-Shock DW5600 MS, Submariner for a sports watch. I would go with the JLC Master Geographic as my everyday watch, actually. I'm not going to go too in depth with that, but it used to be my dedicated dress watch. And then the Lange Saxonia, which, we'll talk about that.
Of course, right?
That would be my beater, absolutely.
Yeah. I think for me, the perfect watch collection size, and this is going to sound kind of ridiculous because I own more watches than this, but I think the perfect size is really 2 watches. I think that it is any watch that you're going to wear all the time, whether it's a sports watch or kind of more of an everyday watch. In my case, it would probably be the Rolex Submariner. Hands down, my favorite watch. And then one other watch as your beater watch, as you described it. And for me, it's the Casio G-Shock 5600. I think those are the only 2 watches, and I'm using the term need loosely, the only 2 watches that I would ever really need. If I wasn't doing YouTube and I wasn't doing reviews and talking about watches and enjoying watches, I really think that I could get by with just 2 watches if I was a normal, average, everyday Joe. And most of the people not watching this, you guys are crazy, but most of the people out there are just average, everyday Joes that really only need 1 or 2 watches. So I think that to have a collection, because we did say the size of collection, that would be perfect. You have to have more than 1. And really that number for me is probably 2.
So I completely agree, especially when it comes to 2 watches. Let's say I had nothing to do, like I don't know anything about watches and stuff like that. I feel like even from just a fashion standpoint, I would forget about sports watches and everything. I would want 1 white dial watch and 1 black dial watch, just simply for fashion and versatility. I would never, even if I wasn't into watches, I would never just have 1 watch. I respect those who could do that. But I feel like 2 watches is a solid answer for someone who isn't a watch guy.
Yeah, for someone that's not crazy like all of us, I think that's the right number. Let's take a look at the comments before we go on to the next question, and we'll see what everyone has to say in the comments. Peter Smith says 6 watches. Haja says 5. Travis Watts also 6. Rich Buddy is going long with 12 watches. Loomshot says it's never a fixed size, and I can see why a person might say that, because this is sort of a fluid hobby, and like, you know, tastes change, new watches come out, etc. Makes sense. Wrist Ross says 15 in a single 15-piece Wolf watch box. I think those Wolf watch boxes probably cost more than some of the watches that I own. But yeah, for sure. In response, I think, to my 2 collection comment, Wrist Ross says, would that be a collection though? I would say yes. Do you think that 2 watches constitutes a collection, AB?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like the term collection can have a lot of different definitions. I feel like if you have 1 watch, then yeah, it's not a collection. But 2, somebody could consider that a collection for sure.
Let's go on to number 4. And let's do this one quick because we've talked about this a lot in the past. This year, I think Rolex will release blank. I know what you're going to say, but go ahead and say it for everyone else's case.
Everybody knows Smurf Submariner.
I think you just posted a video actually yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, talking about this very subject.
Smurf Submariner. You know what? It's not. I don't know why people get really mad about that prediction. It's not far from Rolex to do that. They did it with the Pepsi. They did it with the Sky Dweller. Why wouldn't they do it with the Smurf? I don't know. And if anything, you guys would want to support me because that watch is stunning.
Yeah, exactly. I don't really know what I think Rolex is going to release this year or next year, you know, their next series of releases, if I'm being honest. I have things that I hope that they'll release. Like I said, I hope they would do a refresh on the Explorer. I think we all kind of, to some degree, expect some new version of a Submariner at some point in the near future. A lot of people think this year. Some people, myself included, think maybe in the next 2 or 3 years. But it's some new iteration of the Submariner is coming soon. If nothing else, at least the updated movement. If I'm being honest, I really just wanted to have a Rolex question in this live stream so I could put the word Rolex in the title because that's what people click on.
I'm just tired. I don't know, man. Like, to be honest, I feel like we talk about the new Submariner so much that Rolex is going to punish us and just discontinue the Submariner and not release anything for 5 years and keep it discontinued. That will drive people crazy.
Totally off topic tangent, but I suggested that maybe Omega would discontinue the standard Moonwatch Speedmaster, and man, people lost their minds. They're like, "You're an idiot! They'll never do that." And I was like, "Well,
they should." In my opinion, like I don't remember your video, but I will say this: they need a large break from the Speedmaster so they could attempt to save themselves from what they did. The limited editions. You had quoted something like the last live stream. I don't know if you remember. It was something along the lines of how many limited editions. So I think you'll remember what it was. It was a very good quote.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't remember what I had for breakfast, let alone what I said in the prior live stream. But let's take a look at the comments real quick and see what you guys think about predictions for what Rolex will release this year, next year, their next series of releases. We have Rich Buddy, a Rolex Sub Green Hulk, no date. I think a lot of people would really like that, actually. But if I was a gambling man, I don't think they're ever going to do a no date Hulk. What do you think?
No, I don't think so. I don't see it happening. However, knowing Rolex, that wouldn't be a bad watch. I'm not saying I don't see it happening. However, I support it. I feel like no date subs, I am biased. But
you have one. Yeah. What about a no date Kermit in a modern Rolex case? So green bezel, black dial, no date in the modern super case, maxi case, whatever you prefer to call it. How about something like that?
That would be incredible. I think they were gonna re-release the Kermit anyway, But in a no date, that would be actually, it could also be in the Smurf. They could make it a no date version. I fully support the no date train. Just remove that Cyclops, but I am biased because I have the no date. So
Travis Watt says a Coke GMT. I think that is
eventually, but
I think it's a real possibility. I just don't know if they're going to do it so soon after doing the Pepsi. They kind of have like a like 3, 4, 5 year lag time, I feel like, and things like that.
I know. I don't think they're gonna come out with it anytime soon. No more GMTs for a while.
After doing the Pepsi and stainless steel and doing the root beer and refreshing the Batman with the Jubilee bracelet, I tend to agree. I think they might be a little tapped out on the GMT train and they're going to move on to something else. But a Coke GMT would be awesome. And maybe it would free up some Pepsis for me because that's the one that I want and I still can't get one.
So the only reason I say absolutely no, because Rolex know what they're doing, and to this day the Pepsi's still hyped, and they could use the Coke later when the Pepsi hype dies out, which won't be for a very long time. I feel like they have no reason business-wise to take the spotlight away from the Pepsi just yet.
Number 5, blank is the best watch released in the past year. So anytime, we'll just say through 2019 into 2020, what is your favorite watch release in the past year?
You said we're counting 2019, right?
Yeah, anything from 2019 or anything released even this year. So, roughly the last year or so.
There's so many watches I love. I would go with Lange Odysseus.
That's like got to be the most. That's going to be like the most random watch. I have a feeling that like 97% of the people that are watching this are going, the what now? I'll try to find a picture of it because I don't even know what that looks like.
Okay, so it's Lange's first sports watch. Lange has never done stainless steel except for unique pieces for specific clients that went up in auction. And if you watch the auction world, they went for millions of dollars. Actually, hundreds
is that
of
the one you're
thousands.
talking about right there on screen?
Yes, that is one of those watches that not a lot of people receive too well, but I love that Lange is attempting to go after the Royal Oaks and the Pateks of the world. I think I would much rather have this than the Nautilus and the Royal Oak, but I'm sure it's a bit of a polarizing design for many.
Now that I'm looking at the picture of it, I remember when this came out, and the thing that struck me about it was, number one, the bracelet just doesn't look like really nice. I don't know. I haven't held it in my hand, so I don't know if it feels, quote unquote cheap. But something about the bracelet just does not have the luxury vibe that I would be looking for in a Lange. And then these crown guard things on the side of the case that make the watch supremely asymmetrical. That doesn't jive for me either. However, the dial is fabulous. I love the big date complications at 9 and 3. I'm a fan of the large sub-seconds dial. Handset's very nice. The dial's outstanding. It's just the case and the bracelet. I'm kind of scratching my head when I look at it.
So what I'm hoping for is, so the bracelet was my biggest disappointment. I feel like they could have done a better job, even though a lot of collectors have mentioned that in the metal, it's extremely comfortable and the watch looks way better than pictures, which is for the most part the case with a lot of watches. I'm hoping for them to come out with some kind of integrated rubber strap and then remove that bracelet, put that rubber strap. I think it would look phenomenal.
Now, my choice for my favorite watch release in the past year, and it's difficult for me to say favorite because there are so many, but one that I really liked is the Breitling. It is their reference 806 1959 reissue. And that's pretty small. Let's see if I can make that bigger a little bit so we can see it better, especially the dial. I wish that this watch wasn't a limited edition. I wish that it was a standard production model watch. That's my only real complaint about it. But it comes in at just a hair over 40 millimeters. So it's like a Navitimer I could actually wear. And there's something about these crazy complicated dials that they do on their Navitimers that it just looks like I don't know, a scientific instrument or something. And I mean, it is, right? Like it's made for doing all of these calculations. Such a cool watch. Price point was, a little high. I want to say it was in the $8,000 range on a leather strap. But that is one watch last year that I did really, really like. And I'm not in the position where I want to jump on it and buy it right now. That's kind of why I was disappointed that it was limited. Is like maybe in a year or two, I could have been like, all right, I'm in a spot where like I want to add something like this. At that point in time, it's probably going to be harder to find. Prices are going to be higher potentially. It's unfortunate that they made that a limited edition because I think it's one of the best releases they've done in a while.
I'm surprised by your choice, especially knowing your style. But it is a phenomenal watch. I'm just shocked because you tend to choose relatively simple stuff, and this is the polar opposite of simple, obviously.
But it is a black dial. It is black, so there's that. I like the contrast of the black and the creaminess, and it doesn't look like that faux patina creaminess. It kind of just like it's purposefully kind of khaki colored or taupe or mauve or whatever.
I like it.
I think it's stunning.
I think if you ever purchase this, it would get the least amount of wrist time. That's just my prediction.
Probably, and that's why I didn't jump on it when it was released because like I'm not in a position to like dedicate that much money to a watch that feels like it might be a little bit of a whim for me. But I could appreciate a nice piece of art hanging on a wall. I appreciate looking at this watch and just kind of saying like, man, that's really cool. It's a cool watch.
That being said, you already have all of your safe watches in your collection, so you're kind of due for something a little bit crazy.
You just want me to like go off the deep end and buy something like totally outside of my comfort zone, and then you're gonna mock me when like a month later I'm like, oh, I think I made a mistake. I think you just want to like watch me suffer or something.
What you don't know is I'm trying to get some content out of you.
All right, let's take a look at some of the suggestions or the watches that our viewers in the live stream comments liked this past year. Rich Buddy says the H. Mosier Streamliner is my favorite release watch this year. And I don't know off the top of my head, Streamliner. I've seen a lot of their Endeavors, I think they're called, the Endeavor series of watches. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure what the Streamliner looked like. I guess I could look it up.
It's an incredible watch. I agree with you. Although, Guy, let me mention something to you really quick. There is one thing that I know you're going to highlight the comment. Keep it a secret first. About you're going to know once you see it, but keep it a secret. Now back to the Mosier.
Hang on, I'm pulling up a picture of the Mosier. So yeah, I have not seen this Mosier before, and that is complete polar opposite of the Endeavor watches that they make that I'm familiar with. It's very interesting.
Try to pull up the movement. That is the star of the show.
We'll see. Hang on one sec.
It is. I reviewed the Singer, and I feel like as soon as I saw this one, I wish I had my hands on this one because, in my opinion, this one is so. First of all, the design it is kind of polarizing. But with that being said, I absolutely love it. There's just something so cool about this watch. It reminds me of vintage Porsche watch. There you go. Just look at that movement and you'll,
Moser does some amazing movements. I've looked at a handful of them over at the AD before. And if I'm not mistaken, they're one of the few brands that actually make everything themselves, including the hairsprings. It's a very impressive company. But their designs are certainly not to everybody's taste.
Not at all. Especially the Swiss cheese watch. I don't know if you remember that release.
You remember you telling me about it. All right. DVS Mage says the Grand Seiko SBGA 415 Winter. Is that the one you have?
It is the one I have. Yes.
That's the one you have, right? The Winter. Yes. I couldn't remember if you had the Winter or one of the other seasons.
That is the one
the bezel-less one, right?
Yes.
You wanna say anything else about that before we move on to the next comment?
No, that was all I want to say about that watch is that is actually my favorite release of last year. Forget about the Lange. that entire collection, SBJ 415, 413, the autumn, the why am I forgetting the last season? Anyway, the
Spring,
summer,
spring, fall.
summer. Incredible watches. Those are my favorite Grand Seikos to this day. The case design is phenomenal. Those dials, the movement choices, obviously spring drive movement, but the overall watches, those are definitely my favorite from 2019.
Chi-Town, California says, Chopard Alpine Eagle, quote, said no one. I don't know if I've seen the Alpine Eagle. I've only actually just very recently been looking at Chopards thanks to AB. We were talking about them in our last live stream. And it's a brand that I like, know they exist, of course, but like I never really gave them much attention. And there's some cool stuff in there, actually.
So that is not in the LUC line. Now, I am a big fan of Chopard LUC. Chopard themselves, they're all right. I'm a big fan of the LUC. I'm a big fan of the Caliber 96. The Alpine was a big failure, in my opinion. The dial was the only thing that was absolutely stunning about that watch. But the dial texture itself, and that's because I love textures, which is why the SBJ 415 and all of that was my favorite. Grand Seiko was my favorite because I love textures. But that watch was too much of a Hublot / Royal Oak / AP wannabe. I'm sorry. I know it used to be in their collection, but like he said, it's my favorite, said no one.
All right. Peter Smith said the Zodiac Super Seawolf. And the Zodiacs have been coming up in the comments more than a handful of times over the last couple of live streams. I've looked at them because my AD here in town, Exquisite Timepieces, is a dealer of Zodiac, and they look like nice watches, but some of the crazy designs are just way too much for me. That said, I mean, I could probably borrow one and do a review because I would be interested to see how it stacks up because they're what, in that $1,000-$1,500 price range, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe that's something that people should pay more attention to.
I think you should do the review. The amount of people have been asking us about Zodiac, I think you should do the review. I think a lot of people are waiting for a high quality review, so I think you should. I think the watermelon, he had the watermelon emoji. I think you should review the watermelon, even though it's not your style.
That's the problem. Like I'm gonna do the review and I'm gonna be like, all right, so like here's the good and the bad about it, but I can't not do a review and not give my opinions on it. And a lot of people bitch about that, and they're like, oh, like you're just being subjective, and we just want to review. We don't want to hear your opinions. I'm like, well, why are you watching my videos if you don't want to hear my opinions? That's what I do. I've been doing it for 3 years.
I'll tell you what. Here's a good idea for you, because that watermelon is a very crazy watch. Instead of giving your opinion, since that watch you know you're not going to like the design, just think to yourself, what would AB like about this?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm your polar opposite, so just utilize that. Be like, okay, so in AB's opinion.
This is amazing. And I'm sure the watch is very nice, but it's difficult to get past when there's like a design element that you don't like. It just comes to personal taste.
So here's the thing. Review the watermelon and think of it as the perfect summer watch. That watch, it looks like a watermelon. It's so, when I look at it, I kind of want to eat a watermelon, you know? It's a really cool watch.
Travis Watts says, good choice, Guy. That Navi is beautiful. Yeah, I really did like that. What is the reference off 806? Yeah, I just wish it wasn't a limited edition. And the question is, my mental or emotional price barrier is blank. At what point when you're shopping for watches do you say, okay, that's just too much? And it's going to vary from person to person. It's very subjective, but it's an interesting question. I'll start this one off by saying when I started collecting watches or getting interested in watches, that number was $500, for example. Like and had mentioned, one of my first watches that I was really interested in was the Hamilton Khaki Field, and it's got an MSRP of like $525 or something. And I was like, man, how could anyone spend $500 on a wristwatch? That's insane. I couldn't even fathom spending more than $100 on a wristwatch, and I only wanted to spend $50 to $100 at most back then, which is why I started out with the Seiko 5 SNK 809. Then as I got more and more into it and started like getting perspective on just how much different watches cost it was like, all right, now my mental barrier is going to go up and up and up. So today, what's my mental barrier? I feel like, I mean, the most I've ever spent is on my Submariner, and that was about 8,000. And it's got to be in that ballpark. Maybe we could split hairs and call it 10. I like to think in like double, right? So if I'm saying like, okay, would I spend 10? Would I spend 20? I'm not sure. It's very hard for me to decide right now. It would depend on the watch, but I can say that there's no watch that costs $20,000 right now that I am seriously entertaining. So I'm going to say my mental barrier is probably around 10 right now.
Mm-hmm. I am 100% with you. In fact, a watch I want to add, not in the near future, but not far future, is the Lange Saxonia.
Yep.
And that is just shy of 10,000. My barrier is 10,000. That being said, most of the watches that I really want are right at that $20,000 mark, believe it or not. Retail, for example, you have the AP Royal Oak 15202. I know you can't get it at retail, but that is one. You have the Lange Moonphase Big Date. You have the JLC Master Perpetual Calendar. Most of the watches that I want are right around that $20,000 mark, which is kind of weird. I feel like that is, the question was, what is your perfect price point? Like where most of the watches you want kind of revolve around, it would be the $20,000 mark. But my mental barrier currently is 10,000. I said this to you before, if somebody's selling me a Lange, I want it to be $9,950. I do not want it to be that, even $9,999. I don't want to hear the word 10,000. It freaks me out. I don't know. Call me crazy.
You're crazy, but I understand it. And I'm basically in the same ballpark as you. Let's see. We got comments here. What is everyone else saying? Their mental or emotional price barrier is. Wrist Ross says 10,000 as well. He's right there with us. Rich Buddy, 15.